Mr. Vikram Chand, Dr. Habibullah, my fellow panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. In the government, when anybody says he's the man who is responsible, it means we know whom to fix if things go wrong. And I think I take that, therefore, as partly a warning. This session was on the challenges and opportunities in e-governance. And being an incorrigible optimist by birth as well as by training, I thought I would start with the opportunities first. Because I do believe that in India today, we are actually at a point where the opportunity to implement e-governance systematically, wholly, and effectively has not only never been better, I honestly believe it may never get better than this. So if we don't do it in this window of opportunity, then perhaps that moment in history may pass forever. But let me clarify and amplify what exactly I mean by this historic and unprecedented window of opportunity that we find ourselves in. One which I believe is not necessarily open to many other countries, if not most other countries around the world. Today we have several explosions in the country of the desirable kind. We have an explosion in IT and IT-enabled services, which leads to a climate of pervasiveness of IT companies, IT manpower. Every second child you talk to wants to go into IT. Every person who's looking for a job is looking for a job in IT. So there's an abundance and proliferation of such people and resources as well as organizations. That is one great strength that we have. The second is the explosion in mobile telephony. Perhaps the only area that we have overtaken China. The growth in mobile telephony is crossed 7 million per month. This is truly unprecedented and offers a window to reach people who were quite outside the reach of normal processes of governance in the past. The third is that there is a huge explosion of ICT-based services in the market and the economy. Let's leave e-governance aside for just a few moments and look at the environment around us. And I think today one doesn't give it a second thought when you pick up the phone and ring up the sabziwala on the mobile or the medicine shop next door or whoever it is, and things come rolling into your doorstep without problem. These kind of services, one doesn't think anything of booking an e-ticket. There was a news item the other day which said that 70% of e-ticketing, 70% of ticketing on the flights were e-ticketing, while the internet penetration was only 3%, an apparent anomaly or a paradox. But these kind of services have mushroomed all around us and today are taken as a part of life, not just in urban areas and not just by the educated, by people all around the country. Obviously, there has also been an explosion in e-governance and ICT for development initiatives. India today is home to 20% of ICT for development initiatives around the world. And a lot of countries, especially from the developing world, look at what's happening in India to pick up possible pointers. And in fact, many models which are working in other countries have also been brought into India for proliferation and implementation. So there's a huge amount of such activity which is happening and in which the entire IT industry, the global industry also is very much involved in. I remember as little as 10 years ago, and for the younger people in the audience may forgive me for saying as little as 10 years. I'm already sounding maybe like somebody who's sort of over the hill. But in the historic, when you look at it from the perspective of history, 10 years is just the twinkling of an eye. 10 years ago, when I mentioned e-governance, and yes, I did talk about it even at that time, most people found it slightly amusing. Most people find it difficult to believe, and everyone thought that it was a very, very far-fetched notion, at least in India. But today, thanks to all of these developments, the whole environment has become quite supportive at the political level, at the economic level, in terms of the growth of the industry, and so on. And today, if somebody in a government department or organization says that I'm going to do this in e-governance, then he is unlikely to be laughed out of the room. On the contrary, he would be taken much, much more seriously. So I think this is definitely a huge shift. And parallel to that, under the National E-Governance Program, which is focused on delivery of government services, which was approved last year, there is a whole digital service delivery platform which goes out to every nook and corner of the country, starting with one such service center for every 6 villages, which actually spreads the availability of electronic services to the hinterland, to all the people of the country in a way, either in their village or in an adjoining village. And this is getting ready and would be ready by about the middle of next year. So we are not talking about very far into the future. We are actually talking about a time frame which is in months. Next, please. To continue on the enabling environment and the opportunities that exist, today there is also a talk, as people have understood the benefits of the economic liberalization program that have been pursued since 1991, there is a feeling that in order to enhance the benefit and to make the growth much more inclusive, as everybody desires, and in order to maintain social harmony, the focus now has to be on improving governance. And therefore you will find a lot of government initiatives, programs, conferences, etc., focusing on how to improve governance, because without that, economic development is not going to, economic growth alone is not going to lead to better environment within the country. So in this backdrop, definitely e-governance takes on more meaning. And of course, the RTI Act, I don't need to mention after the Chief Information Commissioner himself has given you the details. But I thought the last question from Mr. Bansal was very eloquent, because it brought out how closely e-governance and Information Act are married. People are actually mistaking one for the other. So it's not even just husband and wife, but actually like Mephistopheles. You know, you look at one side and you find the Information Act, and you look at the other side and you find e-governance. There are a couple of other trends which normally people don't associate with this, but which I regard as having a huge and potent influence on this trend. One is the emergence of the media as a real powerful force within the country, which is also propelling some of these initiatives by highlighting what is happening, by highlighting some of the benefits, by highlighting some of the people who have made this transition happen, and all in all creating a highly virtuous and powerful cycle to reinforce this whole trend. Lastly, we have a world-class entertainment medium, and while many of you may think that governance, at least maybe politics, is entertaining, that was not what I had in mind. There is a very powerful and highly capable entertainment industry in the country, and for a lot of the developmental programs which use e-governance, education, health, and so on, the multimedia capability and the type of soft skills that are used by the entertainment sector are critical in creating absolutely top quality interactive material which can be used for the development sector. And this is again something which we have for the asking in the country. So enough about the opportunities. Now the question is, if all this is true, we don't need a time frame to be specified in the Act. It should have all happened within 1 year. Why isn't it happening? What are the challenges and what are the bottlenecks which are holding back the pace of progress? Of course, money is one factor, but I would like to suggest that money is not the primary problem today in pushing the e-governance agenda forward. There are a lot of other issues, and money will be a problem only much later after we have cracked some of these issues.